And welcome everybody to the Hot 16's NFL Kickoff Special with your host, AJ Tanner. And we are out here doing a special edition of the show today. We got NFL Kickoff coming up on Thursday on the 8th. And we got the Bills and the Rams setting us off. And should be a good game. We got the defending Super Bowl champions going up against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Here in LA at SoFi Stadium, of course, one of the most expensive, most bougiest stadiums out there. I had the opportunity of going to a game last year against the Titans and actually got to see, it was right after Derrick Henry had gotten hurt, so I was able to see Adrian Peterson play after they had signed him, and that was actually really cool because I've been an Adrian Peterson fan like forever, and it was really cool to see him play, which I'm not sure if he got signed this year. It's actually something I should look out for. But yeah, I got to see AP play a game against the Rams, and that was last year. But yeah, we got kickoff coming out, so I decided why not do an NFL Kickoff Special, a Hot 16's, and do our first sports episode of the show. You know, give some insight, you know, just from my point of view from football, some players to look out for, you know, maybe some players to pick up on your fantasy team and whatnot. Some moves to also be on the lookout for, some questionable moves that happened during this offseason. We had a lot of free agency. We had a lot of trading going on. We got Baker Mayfield out in Carolina now. We got Deshaun Watson, and Cleveland was brave enough to pick him up. So we had a few quarterback moves this offseason. We have Russell Wilson out in Denver. I'm really curious to now see what the AFC West does. I was actually speaking with a buddy of mine, and we were talking about how now we think the AFC West is probably the most competitive division because you have to think now you have Russell Wilson in the Denver Broncos, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, Derek Carr and the Las Vegas Raiders, and Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. And that right there is a pretty powerful division already in itself. The Raiders have been making a lot of noise. The Raiders actually made it back into the playoffs this year. They were a sub-500 ball club last year, and hopefully the Raiders can make some noise. We're rooting for the Raiders on this side over here, being from the Bay Area. They used to be out in Oakland, so let's see what the Raiders can do this year, and hopefully they're not a bunch of bumps. But yeah, it's this NFL season is going to be interesting. There's, you know, for instance, we got Tom Brady still. Tom Brady is literally somehow still taking names at the age of what he's 46, I think. Or let's get a stat on this really quick on Tom Brady's age. I mean, fuck, man, this guy's out here competing with some top-notch athletes, and for his age, it's just no one's ever been able to do it. Let's see how old this guy is. Yeah, oh, he's 45. 45. He just turned 45 in August. So Tom Brady is 45, and he is going into his 22nd or 23rd season in the NFL. I think it might be his 23rd. And him and the Bucks, they're looking to get revenge. They were coming off a Super Bowl trying to repeat last year, but the Rams spoiled that deal. And it was kind of interesting, too, because the Rams put them to work in an early season game back early when the Rams and the Buccaneers got the chance to play each other at SoFi Stadium. And that was the first time. It's an interesting stat here. Tom Brady, he played 301 games up to that point, up until SoFi Stadium. And that was the first time he ever played a professional game in Los Angeles, California, in his long, illustrious career that he has drummed up. So that was a really interesting stat. Someone had pointed out that to me. Always getting thrown all these really fun, interesting stats. And Brady, man, I'm really curious to see if he can keep going. I think it was he might have did like another year or two contract. And yeah, no, shout out Tom Brady, and shout out Gronk too. You always got to shout out Gronk being his tight end and whatnot. They still got Gronk out there. Gronk's still out in Tampa Bay. But, yeah, I think, too, some players to watch this year, definitely, which is going to be interesting, is you really want to watch out for Derek Carr and Davante Adams. I know that might be not too biased because I am a Raider fan, but, you know, Davante Adams and Derek Carr went to Fresno State together. I don't know how many people know that, but they played college ball together, and when they were a duo out at Fresno State, there's some records out in the Mountain West Conference out there for Fresno State that still stand today, some receiving and passing records between Davante and Derek. And so I think the Raiders going out and getting Devontae Adams was like a really, really, really good move. Like a really good move. And, now they got Henry Renfrow. They got Darren Waller out there on the end slot, being a tight end. He is questionable, though. He's been, he's got a lot of guy for his size, those high sprains, ankle sprains, knees, blah, 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 you name it. So he's a little bit more prone. But they got some really, really good receivers out there. They got Josh Jacobs in the backfield out behind Carr. So, yeah, man, the Raiders out there in that AFC West. And we can't forget about the Niners, who are in a weird transition, too. All you 49er fans out there, you guys got Trey Lance. The Trey area has this new term everyone's saying out there. All you Niner fans rise up, the Niner gang. Jimmy G, I don't know. I'm glad that they gave him that year contract. I think that front office made a good decision because, they do got to protect their end. They are giving a lot to Trey. He is a good quarterback, but I don't really think Trey Lance he went to, I think it was North Dakota or South Dakota State. He went to a D1 school, but it wasn't, I don't really think he was been able to be put to the test against high professionalism like that. Like, you've seen him in the preseason. You've seen him play a couple snaps last year behind Jimmy, but I don't think he ran a full game last year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty bold that the 49ers are taking such a huge risk on such a young quarterback. So that's just very smart, though, that the front office was able to maintain Jimmy G for another year because, honestly, I feel like the 49ers they're going to transition. I feel like they're going to make the switch. They're going to go back to Jimmy. They're going to give Trey his chance, but we'll see what happens. And then also, too, another funny quarterback situation that I'm kind of laughing at is the whole Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold one, which is kind of weird. Like, Sam Darnold was decent, but I just that's an interesting one right there. And then Baker Mayfield just comes right on in, takes that starting job, and you're going to see him out there starting week 1. Baker Mayfield out there for the Carolina Panthers. He was a great quarterback. I had him last year on my fantasy team as a backup for a little bit when he was out in Cleveland and when they were making a little noise in the beginning of the season, him and Nick Chubb. But that was the thing. He was a good backup because he had Cleveland's run game was pretty much the foregoer of the drives and the points that they were accumulating throughout the game. So you weren't really getting big fantasy points from a guy like Baker Mayfield. Yes, great quarterback, don't get me wrong, but you're not really helping your fantasy. And that's a crazy thing. These players do not care about our fantasy leagues. It doesn't bother them. They're not out there for us. So, but, there is a study. You can analyze it. You can do all that. Fantasy football this year is going to be fun. I hopped into a league. I got one league going. I got invited to help fill a league. I ran a league last year. It was okay. I had fun. Don't get me wrong. It was great being a commissioner. I loved every single second of it. I loved hanging out and chatting, running it and organizing it. And it was fun. It was a great time. And unfortunately, I was not able to revamp it this year. And I was kind of bummed about that. And then kind of like last second, about a week ago, had a buddy hit me up and was like, hey, man, we're looking for to fill our fantasy league. And we know that you're super into it. Would you like to join? And I was like, yeah, sign me up. And we had our draft last night. I got some good ones out there. I got some good receivers, good quarterbacks too. It's funny, but the matchup coming up, we got the Bills and the Rams, and I have Josh Allen as my starter, and I have Matthew Stafford as my backup this year. Great. I'm just super, super pumped on that. Got some great quarterbacks. I also got Devontae Adams as a receiver. I got George Kittle as a tight end, and I got some other great. Oh man, that's right. I forgot. I got DK Lock. I got Lockett and Metcalf from Seattle. But they got Geno Smith as their quarterback, so that's going to be really interesting to see how they adapt to a new player, because I don't really think, to my opinion, I don't think Geno Smith has an arm like Russell Wilson, so I don't think you're going to be getting any more of those deep 40, 30-plus yard passes into the deep end zone and then just gobble them up. That was a special kind of chemistry that Russell Wilson and Metcalf had with each other. I remember last year they were just some unbelievable passes from Wilson to Metcalf that were top 10 for sure in my eyes. And the season's right around the corner. We've got a couple more days until NFL kickoff. It's gonna be an interesting season. It's gonna be. I think we're gonna have some new teams in the playoffs. I feel like we're gonna have some success stories. Hopefully, the Cincinnati Bengals can knock and make some noise again, man. My man Joe Burrow out there in Cincinnati, that's someone to look out for. I think everyone's got to not sleep on Joe Burrow. And, Joe Burrow. Big Burrow. Yeah, no, he's definitely he's an elite quarterback. He's a young quarterback. We're going into a new age of quarterback. We all thought Tom Brady was throwing in the towel, and he really was like the last childhood quarterback for me that I remember being around. Like, I grew up on Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, all those younger, just, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic, Jeff Garcia, Tony Romo, Chad Pennington, just to name a few. And, that was my age of quarterback growing up. And we are in a new era of quarterback. We're in the running quarterback. You got Kyler Murray in Arizona. You got Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. You got Tua Tagovailoa. I think I'm saying that right. He's out in South Beach, out in Miami, holding it down. You got Baker. Baker can get around. Baker can run a little bit. And then we have Trey Lance, of course. Trey can get around on the ball. And then we still have some older quarterbacks that are a little bit more kept in the pocket, like Derek Carr, for instance. Derek Carr is not moving around too much, especially after he got his leg snapped a few years ago. And he was out for the season. That was a pretty gruesome injury. And he had to obtain that injury back when they were still the Oakland Raiders. He bounced back fairly well. I mean, he's right up there with the best of them. He's just got to get an offensive line that can block for him is really the problem there. The Raiders are doing pretty damn good rounding up these players, but they still got to patch up some certain spots. They still got to be able to realize they can't put all their peas in one pod, kind of step back a little bit, and they can probably build a pretty decent competitive team, which they have. They have made the playoffs. They are up there with the best. I mean, they shut out Big Ben and the Steelers last year, and it's just interesting to see how some teams, too, that get a lot of good energy early in their season, they can't keep it going. And that's a big problem I think the Raiders have, is they've been getting off to these hot starts. Yes, they just went 4-0 in the preseason, like yada, yada. But they did that. They've done that like 3 or 4 years in a row, I think. They've gone undefeated in the preseason, and then they have like a decent start in the beginning, and they just flutter out, or something happens, like we lost Gruden, and then last year Henry Ruggs had that horrific accident that killed those people, that DUI accident. And, just a tragic event last year with Henry Ruggs. Who knows what he's up to. Obviously, I think he might be in a cell. I don't know what he's doing. But, we'll eat a little high chew here really quick. We'll record this episode, this NFL Kickoff Special right here, coming into the week. Really excited. Football being one of my favorite sports. And, excuse me. Hi, too. Y'all gotta sponsor me, man. You gotta quit sleeping. I can eat these things so much. Hi, Chew. Hi, Chew, everybody. It was not sponsored, because I'm not getting that shit for free yet. Oh, wow, that's good. I needed that little snack. A little something. Keep the voice going nice and moist, so I don't get all dry and choked up. But, we'll keep it going here with this, a little different little approach today with the episode for some listeners. I know I have a lot of friends out there who have encouraged me to do sports commentary and give my insight on certain things. I do have a pretty valid opinion in most aspects of sports, and I figure why not. So we're going to be having more of these specials throughout. We're definitely going to be doing a Super Bowl special come February, so be on the lookout for that. We'll be doing a World Series special, all that, just any kind of like sports, anything that we can do. We're going to really try and do it, just to, we have the knowledge. We got to get all those crowds, because I have had people reach out to me saying like, oh, when are you going to, lean a little bit more towards this, or, oh, when are you going to lean a little bit more towards this? Well, it's just takes time, We're getting there, We just, on our last episode, we just had a Native American speaker on, political Native American activist. So, I kind of trying to drum it up there, and switch it up for everybody. So today's kind of approach was kind of hitting the sports aspect of the dynamic here at Hot 16's today. And, we're really excited. So we got that Bills and Rams matchup coming up here Thursday at 8:25 Eastern time. That's 5:25 out here on the West Coast. Kickoff, man, right around the corner. And that last Sunday yesterday was going to be it's going to be the last Sunday with no football. NFL football. Yes, you heard me right. Football. No more Sundays with no football until February 2023. So get your cheeseheads, get your jerseys, get your Bud Light, get your diddly, get your drinks, get your fantasy team together, because NFL Kickoff is coming and it's right around the corner. And one thing people keep asking me too, they told me if I was going to do this, they want my prediction for the Super Bowl. And I'm just like, God damn it, man. Like, shit, we haven't even seen one game yet, and y'all asking me that. Well, I'm going to give it to you right now. I guess I'm going to give it to you how I think I see it. Hopefully people don't hate me for it. But, yes. So, with that being said, this year's Super Bowl, well, we shouldn't even say Super Bowl. Let's just start with, I'm not going to jump my horn too much. We'll do AFC and NFC title games. Just kind of right now a prediction, because I'm not too keen. I got to see people play. I got to see week one, man. Someone might get hurt. Someone's ankle might get snapped. Who knows? There might be a success story that drives that team all the way to the Super Bowl. Who knows? So we do have, though, I think the Super Bowl this year is actually, what was it? Where's the Super Bowl this year? I forget where the Super Bowl is at. God, I got to have all these things drummed up. We had it last year in L.A. That was a big one. And then the Rams took it home. It's interesting that the last two Super Bowls, people have won in their home stadium. So hopefully, let's see who keeps that trend going. So let's see where the Super Bowl is this year. Maybe we can throw that as a wild one out there before the season starts, so we can definitely throw that out there as a prediction. Arizona. You know what? I'm going to throw right there, just seeing that right there. We're going to write this down. The NFC champ and the AFC championship game. NFC, I'm going Arizona. Arizona versus Tampa Bay. The reason I say that is because I think Tom Brady is angry. There's a reason why he came back. Knowing Tom Brady and how competitive he is, I said he was going to come back as soon as he announced his retirement, because the way he ended what we thought how he ended his career. Tom Brady isn't going to end on a loss. He wants to end at the highest level of his career possible. And I know that. I don't personally know him, but everything I've watched and seen about him since I've been a little kid, when I was 4 years old in the year 2000, when he was drafted into the NFL, pick number 199, round 6. He's always been the most competitive NFL athlete out there. And that's true. That's his instinct. And he had to be that way to get to the place he was at and be the player that he is. And that's the reason why I think Tampa Bay is going to go back into the NFC Championship game this year against Arizona. Kyler Murray is explosive, honestly. They got DeAndre Hopkins. They got J.J. Watt out there on the defensive side, just absolutely manhandling people. Arizona's really, really built a team. And that's another competitive division, the NFC West, which has been a powerhouse division. You got the Los Angeles Rams, the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have been picking up steam the last couple seasons. Seattle, really interesting. I'm really interested in seeing what's going to happen with them this year with the departure of Russell Wilson. And then you got the Los Angeles Rams, who are the defending Super Bowl champions, and they still have Matthew Stafford, but lost OBJ. So that's going to be interesting. But they still have Cooper Kupp, who was the number one ranked fantasy wide receiver on the fantasy for 2022 this year. So Cooper Kupp is one of the top NFL wide receivers right now. And, I mean, Matthew Stafford and Kupp. So, I mean, we got that. And then over in the quarterback situation over in San Francisco with Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, man. I mean, you got to be careful with that one. But you have everything there. All those teams, just like the AFC West, they all got weapons. They're all, just stacked teams. And that's my NFC prediction, is going to be the Arizona Cardinals versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we're going to write that one down. And we are publishing this before the season kicks off. So this is going to be the Hot 16's championship game prediction, the title, the NFC and AFC championship. We're not going to go Super Bowl quite yet. So we'll see. I'm going to try and stay to these opinions throughout the season, really hold myself to that. So now let's kick on over to the AFC. So the AFC, of course, we got Josh Allen, we got Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, all these amazing teams. But who's going to succeed at the top? Over in Indianapolis, you now have Matt Ryan, who just departed from Atlanta after I think it was about a a 12 or 13-year stint over there in Atlanta and absolutely got annihilated by Tom Brady and the New England Patriots a few years ago and blowing a 28-3 lead. I think that was really Matt Ryan's best opportunity to get a Super Bowl, but now him being with Indianapolis, and he's got Jonathan Taylor behind him, who also was the number 1 rated running back on the fantasy this year and the number 1 overall rated player on the fantasy projected points list this year. So that's just right there is pretty impressive right there. And he's Mr. 5-touchdown guy last year, and it was funny because one of our friends in the fantasy league just picked him up as a backup and ended up being one of his best running backs last year. Didn't even know who the damn guy was when he picked him. And that's the great thing about fantasy, man. People go out and, I need to get this, I need to get that, but you always got to throw in some oddballs. Like on mine, man, I picked up Jarvis Landry. He's out on New Orleans, so he's another good backup to have, a good flex player. Jarvis Landry is an amazing flex to have. So all you fantasy players out there, if you are looking for a flex player, I would suggest Jarvis Landry. He's out there, number 80 on the New Orleans Saints. It's a good flex to keep around. And also Tony Pollard, too. If you can get Tony Pollard, because Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard, they're sharing that run game. They're not giving it all to Zeke because of injuries or injury prone, this and that. So that's another good flex to have is the number 2 back out for the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, I had him last year. I picked him up again this year. He worked out. I like to switch him and Williams from Denver. I would rotate them out a lot as a flex, and it worked out great. And Tony Pollard actually put up a couple big games for me last year when I needed him most, and it got me a couple victories. I ended up finishing 3rd last year in the fantasy league. My buddy Dylan, he ended up winning the pot, and it was right after he had a kid, so it was perfect. He won $250. It was great. It was perfect timing. Shout out Dylan, man. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Keep rocking, kid. So NFL fantasy, Tony Pollard. Those are some people to get on. So back on topic, though, we got to get our AFC prediction here. And my AFC title game prediction this year is going to be the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to get this one down. Yeah, I know. I picked Josh Allen as my quarterback. I'm not hyping him up too much. But I think the AFC title game this year is going to be the Buffalo Bills. I know everyone's going to hate me for saying this because it's just been Kansas City. But Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes is just ridiculous. They got off to a sluggish start last year, I remember. It was like they were like 2-3 or like 3-3 or something like that. And there was a lot of critics early in the season last year who were just like, oh my God, is it the Kansas City a bust? Oh man, blah, blah, blah. I know it is going to be kind of bold though for me to say that because they did lose Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is now out in South Beach, and he's rocking that Miami Dolphins jersey. So he's out there. He's more of a beach boy, man. All these players. I feel like a lot of players, especially like Tyreek Hill, they have a certain glamour to them, and they can only be on certain teams. Like LeBron James in NBA, him being in Los Angeles makes sense with everything he's got going on, endorsements, his I Promise schools, his image, him acting, him getting into movies. There's certain, like OBJ going to the Rams. They're just these sociable media type people, and Miami is one of those places where it draws and attracts athletes because of what is offered there in that area or what they got going on. Antonio Brown was kind of the same way. Got sucked into that whole kind of like Miami scene, being out there with the Buccaneers. It just eats players up, So Tyreek, though, yeah, he's out in Miami now. Excuse me, sorry for that. He's out in Miami handling his thing. Hopefully the Dolphins, man, who knows? I've been waiting to see the Dolphins. Dolphins are one of those teams I've never seen do anything in my life. That's something we can talk about. Like, what are teams you've never seen do shit? Miami Dolphins, Cleveland Browns, the Detroit Lions, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets, the Chicago Bears, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Tennessee Titans. I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl like when I was a little kid, but I mean, really since then there hasn't been too much magic coming from the Titans. They've had good years. They've had good draft picks. They've had really good draft picks. They've had some good teams in the past couple of years, but just to cut it short. Let's see, who else? I think those are just teams that I've never really seen do much in my life. Like, if you really think about it, like, it's just the same shit, you know? Like, the Detroit Lions, I remember when they went 0-16, like, legendary. I remember that. I was like 9 or 10 years old when they did that. They were the first team to lose every single game in a season. That's how bad they were. And the Lions are still bad, man. And they're like, they got that Hard Knocks thing, and they're like hyping them up pretty hard this year. But it's like every episode you watch of that is just absolutely comical. Like, I can't take that coach seriously. I really can't. Like, he's got a good energy, and he's got the right approach with everything. But, like, how can I don't know. I just can't take the guy serious. I just can't take him serious enough for an NFL coach. Especially when you can't win ball games, you know. You can't work with the front office until you start showing me an NFL fan. I'm not a Detroit Lions fan. I'm an NFL fan. I wish the best for every team. But to be impressed by a team, it's a team effort. Yes, the coach plays an important role, but you have to be the main leader, and you are a pretty important image with winning those games and building that team and building that dynasty for the organization, and so forth and so forth. So, yeah, hopefully best of luck, man, to all those teams out there, you know, especially the Jacksonville Jaguars. They go out there and get Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson, and they just can't do anything. I mean, it's just actually kind of silly. It's actually really silly. But my whole thing is any quarterback, I can't really say that there's been a great number one quarterback to ever get drafted number one in the draft. It's crazy good quarterback in college that sets all these. I've never really seen any quarterback go number one, maintain that hype all the way through. It's really rare, honestly. I mean, Baker Mayfield's doing okay, but he's not really winning playoff games and bringing them to the Super Bowl. He's making them contenders. But I haven't seen, like, any good number one draft pick be a quarterback. And I've noticed, too, that more, like, defensive backs and defensive linemen and middle linebackers and offensive tackles, defensive tackles, out guards and stuff like that, they're more likely now to get drafted because you got all these organizations that were trying to get all these elite quarterbacks, but they're just like, they don't come like that. They just come in different ways. Getting a good quarterback doesn't come when you can pick. And, you know, it doesn't happen like that. I mean, shit, look at fucking Colin Kaepernick, Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo sat behind fucking Tom Brady. That's different, but it's just people think that, you know, you could have all the money in the world. It just doesn't do much. But, yeah, we're out here. It's the Hot 16's 2022 NFL Kickoff Special with your host, AJ Tainer. I gave you my input on the season. I gave you some inputs on some divisions. I gave you some inputs on some players. I gave you some players to look out for. I'm really into the fantasy football, so I've been getting a little bit more in-depth with it and really it helps me kind of break down and analyze football better so I can talk to my audience here in a more understanding manner. I hope the football fans and all the sports fans of the Hot 16's audience enjoyed today's episode. We're going to be trying to do more things like this throughout the course of the podcast. It's been great. Hopefully we can get some speakers or some roundabouts. That would be great in some future sports episodes that we're going to be doing. So we can get, some more opinions, get some sports heads in here. So if you are an avid sports fan, or maybe you own a sports bar or a sports store, or you're just a crazy sports head, just, let's link up and we'll have a whip around and really give the audience some good material. But without further ado, I'm going to let you guys ride off into your afternoon. I'm going to let you guys enjoy your day. It was a pleasure talking to you all and informing you on all these great things to be on the lookout for. Thank you, Hot 16s. It's been a great time. Be on the lookout for episode 6 featuring me and Mercutio X. Peace, everybody.